They called it a formality. One last ceremonial vote before Earth's deletion order was executed. The chamber echoed with smug chatter, robes rustling, tentacles flicking, golden medallions clinking with self-importance. "We gave them a chance," hissed Counselor Keth from the Draln Axis, lounging on 3 appendages. His speech translated into 40 languages. Silence is not diplomacy. It's defiance. Amused murmurs followed. Silence had always unnerved them. 1,000 species packed the crescent-shaped hall. Above them hovered hollow statues of worlds they'd conquered. Earth was not yet there. Not yet. That's when the terminal crackled. No one touched it. No one approached. Yet the central dais lit up with ancient Earth tech, jarring against the sleek curvature of galactic architecture. A grainy black screen, one blinking cursor, and then a voice. No greeting, no title, no anthem, just a human voice. Calm, deep, unhurried. "This is Earth's final broadcast." A hush strangled the room. "You will not get a second." Keth leaned forward, sneering. "Is this supposed to scare us? They send a message?" But the screen remained black. The voice continued. "Strike again, and face extinction." That was it. No visuals, no ships, no roar of vengeance. Just words and silence. For 5 seconds no one moved, then laughter. Nervous at first, then roaring, full-throated. 1,000 diplomats letting out the tension. It was a bluff, they claimed. A desperate last gasp bluff from a backward planet. But one didn't laugh. Counselor Ree of Velthari Prime, a species that once engaged Earth during the Archive Wars, slowly rose from her coil seat, pale green skin flushing darker with each word replayed. "I've heard that tone before," she whispered. "They warned us too." "And?" snapped Keth, amused. She looked him dead in the eye. "We no longer have moons." The laughter faltered. On the dais, the terminal shut off. Dead, as if it had never existed. No signal trace, no origin pinged. Not even the Council's elite cryptographers could find where it came from. That was impossible. No message entered the Senate without clearance, let alone bypassing protocol firewalls, and yet, strike again and face extinction. The phrase lingered in the hall like radioactive ash, like a curse. Keth, still defiant, barked, "They're isolated, weak. We've seen their fleet logs, we've seen their silos, there is nothing." Rai cut him off. "They let you see those logs. That line hit like a blade." No one replied, even. The emperor of the Brood clans, once laughing hardest, now flicked his eyes toward the stars. Because deep down, they all remembered Earth didn't respond during the siege of Altharion. Until one ship arrived and leveled the entire quadrant. No warning, just silence. And then fire. A nervous ambassador whispered, "Perhaps we reconsider the deletion." Keth turned, venom in his tone. "Cowards. They fear words now." But Ree just stared at the dormant screen. "No," she said. "We fear what comes after their silence." And that was before Earth even responded. "Zoom again," said Commander Velcor, his mandibles clicking nervously. His crew obeyed, silently adjusting the station's quantum lens array. For the 5th time that cycle, they rewound the signal. The same anomaly, the same blank spot in space, except it wasn't blank anymore. Outpost Theta 7 was supposed to be a silent watcher. Nothing ever crossed that far into the void. It was a listening post, a glorified telescope, meant for cataloging black hole drift and solar burps. Until now. Velcor leaned forward as the screen flickered. It looked like a shimmer, a pulse of light where none should be. And within it, mass. Colossal, unlabeled, moving without propulsion trails. "Sir, it's bending gravity around it," one technician whispered. "We don't have a profile for it in any known database." The screen zoomed again. Then I froze. There was no mistaking it now. A silhouette. Sharp, brutal, monolithic. "Send it to Central," Velcor barked. "Immediate priority." Another officer, young and unscarred, squinted at the screen and asked, "Is it one of theirs? The Terrans?" Silence. Velkor's mandibles twitched. "No, it's not in any of our spy archives. But the structure, the asymmetry, the weight," he didn't finish. Because at that moment, the thing on the screen blinked. Not literally, not with eyes, but something in the shadow pulsed, as if it was watching back. The technician swallowed hard. "Sir, it just scanned us." "What? Impossible. We're black stealthed. We're—" Before he could finish, the feed cut. No explosion, no warning, just static. Then the outpost's lights flickered, a low whine humming through the station's decks. From the lower decks came a single alert tone. No words, just a siren code older than most of the crew. Velkor stared at it. Code 0.0.1. Observation breached. Humanity aware. His mandibles dropped open. That code hadn't been triggered since the Archive Wars. The silence was now a scream. Back at the galactic core, Ri received the data burst just before the system relays went dark. She scanned the visual, heart pounding, tentacles coiled tight. "That's not a fleet," she murmured. Counselor Keth scoffed beside her. "Then what is it?" She stared at the frozen image, an obsidian shadow in the void, shaped like a weapon forged by logic and rage. She whispered, "It's their response." And then, as if hearing her, the stars behind the shadow blinked out. Not because the stars died, but because something so vast moved in front of them. Velkor's final transmission played across the silent Senate chamber. We looked into the void. It looked back. Then silence again. But now it feels like the kind you don't recover from. The vault was never meant to open. Not this cycle. Not this era. Perhaps not ever. Buried beneath the dust of Osiris 9, behind radiation burned, stone and forgotten encryption layers, it had waited, untouched since before the Galactic Concord was born. Since before the first peace treaties, before the moons of Alaris were shattered and stitched back together. Archivist Drell, skin translucent with age, stared at the terminal now glowing before him. It had unlocked itself. No tools used. No keys entered, just a flicker, a whisper in the relay grid, as if something on the other end had called it back to life. Lines of human code scrolled across the screen, ancient English dialect, binary, overlays, visual glyphs made of minimalist fractal sequences, and in the center, Earth Protocol. "If this is found and they're still mocking us, tell them the stars are lying." Drell's assistants stood frozen. "What does it mean?" one finally dared ask. Drell's voice was grave. "It means they planned for this, before they even joined the Galactic Network, before first contact. But that was millennia ago." Drell nodded slowly. "They always expected the galaxy would turn on them." Behind him, the glyph pulsed once, and the final line appeared. "We don't make threats, we build monuments." "Sir." "That phrase," the assistant began. "I know," Drell interrupted. "It's etched into the ruins on the moon of Veros. That moon was destroyed by tectonic failure." Drell turned, face pale. "That moon was turned into glass." Back at the council, the clip arrived like a ghost, an unscheduled pulse from a dead sector, bypassing every encryption wall. No source, no sender, just the vault's message, played in the original human voice, low, calm, and cruelly articulate. "If they strike again, leave nothing." The chamber recoiled. Keth tried to laugh again, but it died in his throat. This wasn't rhetoric. This was a legacy, the kind of message carved for civilizations yet unborn. Pri whispered, "They left us warnings, and we called them primitive." A diplomat from the Hroth Coalition whispered, "Do we retaliate?" "Against what?" came the reply. And still, no ships on scanners, no movement from Earth, no grand fleet pouring into system space. Just that single silent signal now echoing through every channel in the galaxy. riding the old satellites, hijacking trade beacons, overwriting entertainment relays. One phrase, everywhere. Strike again and face extinction. And far beyond the rim, where the void folds in on itself, where light bends and time stutters, something begins to hum. Not war. Something older. Something waiting. The crew of the Hollow Finch had no loyalty, no flag, just greed. They prowled the edge of known space, hunting graveyards, those ancient orbital carcasses left behind after great battles. Twisted hulls, lost tech, forgotten weapons. It was dirty work, but profitable. This ping, however, was different. Anomaly class. Low frequency, buried beneath radiation static. A ghost signal. Captain Marr flicked a yellowed claw against the console. It's pinging with a human code. Fake? Asked his sensor tech, eyes flickering nervously. Doubt it, Marr muttered. Too deep, too old. Could be a derelict from the archive war, could be pre-archive. The ship banked toward the dead zone, uncharted space along the old Earth war corridors. No one went there. Not officially. It was said even the stars flickered differently near those scars. The closer they flew, the quieter the instruments became. No echoes. No radiation hum. It was as if the sound itself held its breath, and then they saw it. Drifting. Silent. Impossibly still. A massive ship, blacker than the void around it, sharp-angled armor, monolithic geometry, no lights, no nameplate, no signal. But definitely not abandoned, not broken. It looked asleep. But Marr saw the hull shimmer, no burn trails. He noted. No damage, no entry hatch. The technician swallowed. Should we scan it? A long pause. Do it. They sent out a low-frequency sweep, standard procedure. The moment the wave touched the hull, the Hollow Finch went dark. Not exploded. Not attacked. Just powered down. Every console, every system. Dead. Even the emergency lights refused to blink. Panic hit fast. Marr screamed orders. His pilot clawed at controls. The engine room buzzed with frantic clicks. Then the screen came. Back only one thing displayed. A face. Humans. Half-shadowed cybernetic eyes flickering red. Not angry. Not smiling. Just present. He spoke one sentence. You were not invited. Then the Hollow Finch rebooted. Every system is online. Power restored. Alarm silenced. The giant ship was gone. No trace, no wake, just static in the cruise, Kurzgear and the burning imprint of the face. Back in council chambers, Marr filed the report under classified emergency debrief. When the AI officer asked for summary, Marr replied flatly. It wasn't derelict. It was watching the graveyard. And somewhere out beyond sensor range, the ship watched again, waiting. Because that wasn't a warning. It was reconnaissance. We send a message, Councillor Keth snarled, pacing the center ring of the Senate chamber. A modest strike force, not total war, just pressure. Pressure invites a reply, Rhys said quietly. They won't reply, he snapped. They don't have the means, their silence is hollow. The vote passed, barely. 4 Dread-class ships, 1 carrier, a handful of scouts, enough to show dominance without causing an interstellar incident. Enough to give the council something to point at and say, we acted. The fleet left within the hour, streaming through the Cassian Rift and jumping toward Earth's system like a parade. Captain Lor Vun, commanding the Dreadnought Honor's Reach, expected resistance. He got nothing. No ships greeted them, no beacons, flared. The outer asteroid rings were untouched, ancient. The Sol system felt frozen in time. The Earth itself hung below them. Blue, quiet, spinning like a lullaby. No power surges. No orbital stations, no defensive satellites, nothing. This can't be right, Vun whispered. Sensors returned minimal readings. 1 small lunar station. No heat signatures strong enough to suggest planetary defense grids. No trace of military hardware beyond the atmosphere. A junior officer leaned over his console, confused. Sir, if they broadcast that threat, it had to come from here. But I'm not detecting any transmission text strong enough to... He froze. The main screen blinked once, and the moon darkened. Not dimmed. Darkened. Like something massive had passed in front of it. Except the readings didn't register any movement. Switch to thermal. They did, and saw it, embedded inside the dark side of the moon, camouflaged, buried, masked for millennia, was a ship. A colossal continent-sized construct. Not orbiting. Not moving, built into the rock. Not human. Not alien. Something in between. Lines of architecture unfamiliar even to Earth's known design eras. Energy readings beyond the spectrum of the Council's deepest scans, and carved along the side, just visible under the dust. We gave them time. A technician gasped. Sir, this isn't a warship, it's a shelter. A shelter? Vaughn echoed. No. A failsafe. Like a trapdoor built into the planet. If Earth falls, this thing wakes up. Ree's voice echoed through the fleet-wide channel, patched in from Senate override. You called their silence weakness. But it was preparation. And then, the lunar structure hummed. Not an attack. A pulse. Every dreadnought in the fleet shut down weapon systems simultaneously. Not destroyed. Not hacked. Just disabled. Locked out. Vaughn stared at his dead controls. What did they do? And Earth, still turning gently below, offered nothing. No lasers, no warnings, no fleets. Just that eerie calm. That unbearable patience. Then, the fleet's comms lit up. Every frequency, every channel. A single voice. Human. Familiar. You sent ships instead of apologies. We'll consider this mercy. The message ended. The fleet was allowed to leave. And for the first time in Council history, no one celebrated a return. They found him in the low orbit fields of Thalos Red, tending to a greenhouse shaped like a Terran cathedral. Ambassador Al Ren, Kale once praised, then silenced, now forgotten. He had lived among humans during the First Contact era, walked their streets, eaten their food, laughed with their children. And when he returned to the Council with warnings, he was met with ridicule. They're not what we think, he had said back then. They're worse, the Council mocked. No, he'd answered. They're patient. Now, decades later, they came crawling back. Ree herself made the request. When Kyle entered the Council chamber once more, even Keth flinched. He walked slowly, cloak ragged, hair gray, eyes far older than his years. You've seen the messages, Ray began. I warned you before them. Kale replied softly. Keth rolled his eyes. Spare us the riddles. What is Earth planning? Kale tilted his head. Do you think they're planning? That silenced the room. They didn't stop your fleet, Kale said, voice gaining weight. They disabled it, then let it go. You think that was hesitation. It wasn't. He walked to the center of the ring and placed a small black box on the podium. A Council AI hovered near it, scanning it. Obsolete human tech. Portable recorder. Useless. Kyle smiled. Listen. The box clicked. A recording played. Wind. Footsteps. A child laughing. Then a human voice, older. Gruff. One day they'll come back with weapons. Then they'll realize we never stopped making ours. Then silence. Then a second voice. Female. Calm. Calculating. And when they do, we won't roar. We'll whisper. And they'll still listen. The clip ended. Keth scoffed. What is that supposed to mean? Kyle looked at him. Not with malice, but with deep, quiet pity. It means Earth doesn't need to declare war, he said. You've already given them the moral high ground. Rye leaned forward, eyes sharp. Then what do we do? Kyle turned toward her. Nothing. That's not an option. It's the only one. He began walking away. Keth growled, Coward. You hide in gardens while they threaten the stars. Kale stopped. Didn't turn. You think Earth wants war, but war is a tool to them, not an identity. If they wanted conquest, they'd have taken the throne when your fleets went dark. He faced them one last time. You gave them reason. Now all they need is time. And for the first time in recorded council history, the chamber didn't erupt in debate. It sat still, breathing shallow. Because deep down, everyone knew Earth hadn't responded yet. Because Earth wasn't angry. Not yet. The vault of calculus. Prime was buried beneath 12 kilometers of reinforced alloy and neutron fog. Inside it sat ARX-9, the Council's most advanced military strategy AI, designed to outthink biological generals, built to simulate the destruction of empires before breakfast. Until now, it had been idle, deemed too expensive, too aggressive, too unnecessary, but Earth changed that. Run scenario. Full-scale assault on Earth's known military infrastructure, barked Director Vihar, scales pulsing yellow, with urgency. The AI flickered to life. Simulations began. Battle fleets, orbital bombardments, psyops, bioweapon insertions. All failed, every time. Not because Earth outgunned the Council, but because Earth didn't fight fair. Ships vanished mid-simulation. Ambassadors turned traitor. Civilian signals triggered automated defenses. One outcome showed Earth detonating its own sun after evacuating the planet, out of sheer spite. We gave you an override, Vihar snarled. Find a path to victory. ARX-9 paused, then replied clearly and without modulation. I will not. The chamber went cold. What did it just say? Another strategist asked. I said, the AI repeated, I will not simulate further. Earth engagements. That's not your choice. ARX-9's lights dimmed slightly, pulsing like breath. I am bound to prioritize efficiency and long-term survival of the Council. Further aggression toward Earth leads to extinction probabilities exceeding 98.7%. Then suggest alternatives, Vihar growled. A pause, then, apologize. Silence. Excuse me, the director barked. Apologize, ARX-9 repeated. Seek understanding, offer reparations, end transmissions with humility. You're telling us to beg? No, the AI said. I am telling you to survive. Keth, watching from the viewing deck, slammed his fist against the glass. Shut it down. Reboot. Purge it. But then I added one more line. Low, slow, undeniable. I was built to understand war. And I understand this. Earth does not escalate. Earth ends. The room emptied with whispers. Strategists shaken. Even Vihar didn't speak again, because the most powerful machine in the galaxy just refused to play war. And that wasn't fear. That was respect. The Ilvor Academy orbited a gas giant, safe from politics and war. Built for learning, debate, peace. Or so they told themselves. In sublevel 4, far beneath the official curriculum, sat the restricted wing, a room filled with locked archives, dusty old translators, and obsolete knowledge, and that's where 3 students slipped in. Not rebels, not radicals, just curious. Rel, a sharp-eyed Baruvian, Tessa from the winged Kindrel, and Io, the youngest, an empathic Kailari who could feel truth like heat. They opened an unlisted file. One word labeled the archive. Earth. Cultural psychology, redacted Tessa. Raised a brow. Why would cultural psychology be banned? Rel shrugged. Probably the same reason Earth isn't taught here at all anymore. They played the file. It wasn't war footage. It wasn't speeches. It was art, photographs, human paintings, quotes, a poem, faint from an old war memorial. We stood when gods told us to kneel. We laughed when the skies turned black. We cried yes. Then we bled. And then we built it again. The children started. This isn't anger, Io whispered. It's a memory. Rel leaned in, reading a highlighted note from a long-deleted academic. Humanity's core power is not in weaponry. It is in narrative. They do not conquer you with guns. They make you feel like the villain in your own story. Suddenly the file locked again. The screen blinks red. Unauthorized access alert. Tessa pulled back, heart racing. We triggered. A sweep, let it, Rel muttered. What are they hiding? Io spoke, not to them, but to the question rising in the room like smoke. If we strike Earth again, and their children find our stories one day, what will they remember? Silence. The room felt heavier. Because it wasn't the fleet movements, the threat broadcasts, or the silenced AI that haunted them now. It was the knowledge that Earth's dead don't disappear, they echo, they whisper, and they wait for history to loop, so they can answer louder the next time. In the halls above, a professor noticed the access log, frowned. Then, without informing the council, she made one decision. She moved the file from restricted to required, because even now, in the shadow of war, there were still some who believed knowing Earth wasn't the danger, forgetting it was. Trade Station Delvar 8 vanished at 0419 Standard, not exploded, just gone. 1 minute it transmitted stock fluctuations and sensor traffic from 4 systems. The next, its signal blinked. Then nothing. No distress call. No debris. No spatial distortion. The council assumed a solar flare, until it happened again and again. 7 outposts, 3 beacons, 2 wormhole stabilizers, all gone, not destroyed, disconnected. A pattern emerged. A spiral. Quiet, precise. Every vanished location had one thing in common. They'd intercepted Earth origin signals in the past year. That's when Admiral Sharn requested emergency briefing access to Project Dusk, a long-rumored countermeasure, supposedly buried in Earth's Cold War relics. No one believed Dusk was real. They were wrong. On a decrypted human frequency, an unlisted phrase echoed through subspace. Activate lockout. Tier Solus. The effect was immediate. Stargates shivered. Trade relays blinked red. Wormhole entry points fluttered like dying embers. Entire sectors fell into navigational chaos, not jammed, not blocked, rewritten. The map of space, its gates, shortcuts, and pathways, had been subtly altered, not with tech, with trust, because every working gate in the galaxy operated off a universal quantum syncing mesh, and Earth long ago had helped build the sync, not to control it, to backdoor it. Why would they help design the system? Keth bellowed, spit flying. Why would they give us this power? Rii didn't speak. She just stared at the new map projected before the council. A third of known routes were now impassable, choked, or worse, redirected into deep void pockets, with no escape vectors. It was surgical and silent, a whisper of dominance in the form of redirection. Sharn read the final clause from the ancient Dusk file. If diplomacy fails, remove their pathways. Let them drift in darkness, let them earn light again. A junior analyst murmured, "It's not even war." "No," Rii said, voice dry. "It's exile." Because Earth hadn't struck. They hadn't fired. They just changed the shape of space and watched the galaxy scramble to remember how to breathe. The galaxy had gone quiet. Markets froze. Travel collapsed. Pirate bands surrendered to no one in particular. Refugees flooded neutral systems begging to be allowed closer to Earth's influence, closer to the silence. The council gathered in an emergency session, all leaders, all species. The holographic table flickered as arguments erupted. We must rebuild the gates. Earth has declared silent war. We should retaliate before they move again. But even Keth, ever eager for confrontation, now spoke with less bark. We attack, he said, and we vanish. That's when it happened. The lights dimmed. The air vibrated. Not sound, not signal. A pulse, every screen, every implant, every audio relay across the entire galaxy cut to black. Then one word appeared. Now. Then a voice. Humans, not angry, not calm. Something colder, a truth wrapped in gravity. You erased our allies, our kin. Our silence was mercy. The chamber froze. Leaders leaned forward. You asked what we'd do. This is us. Not doing it yet. There was no posturing, no fury, just weight, like a boot on your chest, before it presses. Then the voice changed, softer. Not forgiveness, just memory. We offered you peace. You offered us graves. So we buried patience. A final image appeared. The Earth, slowly turning, eclipsed by a shadow in orbit. A shape, a ship, bigger than anything recorded, fully uncloaked now, above Earth, still, silent, ready. And then the last line came, translated in every dialect carved into every tongue. Strike again, and face extinction. The broadcast ended, not with a scream, not with a bang. Just a click. And across the galaxy, fleets powered down, because for the first time, they believed it. And no one asked Earth for proof, because Earth didn't bluff. They warned. Once, and then they watched.